Welcome to Nonprofit Nation, the series that highlights the meaningful work nonprofits are doing to strengthen our community. In each episode, we speak with leaders, volunteers, and advocates addressing real-world changes and creating impactful solutions. Join us as we explore their stories, the obstacles they face, and the measurable change they bring to people and causes they serve. And welcome back, folks, to another episode of Nonprofit Nation. I am your host, Amanda Pierce, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce our esteemed guests today. I have Joe and Carol, and they are the leaders of AboutFace-USA, which is a nonprofit organization.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
I'm glad to have you both. Joe, for folks that are unfamiliar with what you guys do in the world of nonprofits, can you give us a little bit of depth and breadth?
Yeah, we provide different services for veterans and their family members. One of our most beneficial, I think, is the mental health and addiction counseling we provide to veterans. A lot of organizations, the VA and some others, provide services for veterans, but they leave the family member out. And we like to include the family. We also have veteran support groups where a bunch of veterans meet together. It's good because the guys we don't talk about combat, but we talk about the psychological after effects we deal with on a daily basis from combat. And I can work with veterans all day long, but unless somebody works with the family members, it's not going to do much good, because the veteran's going to go home, may have an episode, and the spouse is going to say, "What the hell's wrong with you?" versus, "How can I help you through this?" And that's where Carol comes in, and she works with the family members and teaches them how to coping skills and how to deal with a veteran going through a post-traumatic episode. Some of the other things we do is we provide financial assistance. We've given away cars, paid for hotel rooms for veterans, homeless veterans. We have a little food bank. Veterans come in, get food.
Where is this located? Here in Forsyth County?
Yes, 188 Tri-County Plaza. We also... for the veterans who come in and require financial assistance, we have a program, financial literacy, that they have to go through.
Sounds like you really are a resource hub for those who have served and also their families. I'm looking at your website, and I apologize I didn't quite set it up for success there in the beginning. But at About Face, they empower veterans and their families with the resources, programs, and support that they need to overcome challenges and thrive. By addressing mental health, fostering whole health wellness, and creating innovative opportunities like community farming, they build a foundation together for resilience, growth, and lasting change. If you guys want to learn more about them, visit www.aboutface-usa.org. Now, Joe, you are uniquely equipped to sit at the helm of this ship because you yourself are a veteran. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Would you share your personal experience with service and coming out, and how you and Carol kind of brought this organization to life based on a need that you saw and also maybe personally experienced?
Well, of course, Vietnam was a strange war. Our government sent us over there, but really wouldn't let us fight the battle. And for many of us that came back, it was not what we saw on TV, where you welcome home with parades and stuff. We weren't welcome home, and in many cases, we were called murderers and baby killers, and such things, and it had an impact. not only on me, but on other veterans. We come back here, and when you're over there for 13 months and you're seeing all the killing and the destruction and the innocent people involved in being killed, it's a moral injury. I don't think people understand that the veteran can leave combat, but the combat doesn't leave the veteran. And it's something where, once you kill somebody, you basically lost your innocence. You could never bring that person back. And no matter how hard you try in a situation, you think when you're there at night, you think, why am I over here? I don't even know this guy. Maybe if in a different situation, we could be buddies, have a beer together or whatever. Do they have a parent? Do they have kids? Do they have a wife, a husband? A lot of things that civilians take for granted that we have to think about. When you leave Vietnam, you leave your friends behind. So you have guilt, survivor guilt. You wonder about your buddies, and you don't hear from them. And then you go back into society, and people expect you to snap right out of it. People don't realize that when you leave the military, you lose your identity. Everything is structured in the military. You're told what to do, where to go, and how to do it. There's a ranking. Well, when you retire or you're discharged from the military, you're in a situation where you lose your identity. Now you have to go out and find a job. If you went into the military right out of high school, the only experience you have is the experience you were taught in the military. And if you were an infantryman, there's no market out here for a machine gunner or a rifleman. So yeah, you spend a lot of time, maybe two or 3 years, trying to figure out what you want to do, and you bounce around from job to job, and that can be difficult, especially if you have a family. I was fortunate that I was not married when I was in Vietnam. I met Carol years later. But with Carol, anytime you live with somebody with post-traumatic stress, you are going to have secondary post-traumatic stress because you're always walking on eggshells. What I thought was being protective, Carol and my kids thought of being controlling. I treated them as I treated my men in combat. You tell somebody to do something in combat, and if they don't do it, something negative is going to happen. And unfortunately, that's what I did with them. I didn't realize that until she told me. But there are so many service families that are in that situation. A lot of people, I think they respect the veteran, but the true warrior in a marriage between a veteran and a civilian is the spouse. I have a saying that the Lord gives his toughest battles to his strongest warriors. And many times the strongest warrior is the spouse. Because they have to put up with our baloney, I guess.
This life that we live is certainly a race of endurance. And it sounds like the leg that you were just talking about was quite the endurance training for not only you, but for Carol.
She's a very strong woman. I always tell her, if I were you, I'd have left me a long time ago. She told me once, I want you to stop saying that. She took it as being offensive.
Yeah.
And I took it as, you're strong. You stayed with me all these years. I don't know if I could have done that.
She said, challenge accepted.
Oh, yes. And then some.
So cue how your relationship, thank you for sharing that personal piece of your story, Joe. And I can only imagine what that reintegration was like. And I tip my hat to you for identifying that need and then bringing some resources to life for others that might be encountering that same feeling of displacement. You said a couple things that kind of stood out to me. The protection versus control. And I'm sure any dad or any fella that has responsibility over others can probably empathize with that right there. You also mentioned secondary PTSD and the true warrior in a marriage being the spouse. I'd like to bring Carol into the conversation to talk about some of those things, if we may, as you are sitting here resiliently with a smile on your face, supporting Joe, and you guys are out there moving and shaking for this organization. So tell me about your passion. Tell me about the support system, and just tell me about where you guys are today.
Well, I always think about that we have been married for a long time, and over the decades, things have really changed, but not immediately. So the resources that we offer at AboutFace-USA have to do with changing people's behavior, changing the way of thinking, so that they can, we have a space where they can come and practice these skills that they're learning through therapy, through the support groups, through the financial literacy coaching. There are things that they can do and learn to improve their well-being. Their PTSD wasn't even named until 1985. So, from I didn't meet Joe till the mid-70s. So from the mid-70s to the mid-80s.
Undiagnosed.
Not diagnosed, but not even talked about. Mental health was not something you talked about, period. I think over the years we have found that the more you talk about things, the more solutions can be found. But if you don't talk about it, nothing gets done. So till probably 2000, nobody was talking about mental health. In 2010, when Joe had a heart issue and he ended up in the hospital, he was able to get some help with his post-traumatic stress. That was the first time that he actually sought help. And, we just don't want people to wait that long. And so we're very proactive in mental health awareness. We're part of the community, so we do help veterans, but we're also involved with other organizations that work towards better mental wellness. The resources that we offer, if we don't have them directly, we have places that we can refer veterans to and their family members so that they can get the help they need.
What is your background, Carol? Do you have a psychology or some type of I'm catching a vibe here. Tell me about it.
So I do not. I'm a what do you call them? I'm just a civilian that had to learn about mental health, and I didn't know anything about it until around 2010. So it's all new to me, and I'm still learning. I'm happy to share my information and the knowledge. I did get some training through NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So I actually am a instructor for the NAMI Homefront class, which is specifically for veteran family members, not the veteran, but the family members. So I have that knowledge. I am not a psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, clinician, social worker. These are all very important people that can help veterans. I'm what we call a peer. I'm a peer to the family members of veterans. Anybody wants to talk things out, they can call me. That's not really my role per se at AboutFace. I'm the president, so I run the operations basically. So, but I do get in touch with the veteran family members and help direct them if they ask.
Need help. Now, the name, of course, anybody that knows anything about the military would understand what an about face would be. But tell me how you came up with the name. Tell me what the inspiration behind that was, if it was anything greater than what it literally is.
I guess one day I was just thinking about boot camp, and drill instructor always,
About face.
About face, yeah, and turn around.
Yes.
And, it's a 360. You're going from one phase into another phase. So
I thought that too when, again, being a visual person, have turned your life around, or that you're helping others. Yeah.
180.
Yeah.
180, right?
I'm standing here in my mind.
Well, there were times where I did a 360.
You did a 360. That was necessary.
Yeah, there was some thought that went into it also, because even though this is for veterans, the community also needs help. And we were thinking big. And so, we didn't want to just help veterans, even though that's our bylaws, that's what we follow. But we really understand that this is not just about veterans. This is bigger than that. So we wanted to have a name that didn't necessarily say veterans in it.
Only, right. Mm-hmm. So tell me about what that bigger vision is, Carol.
So the bigger vision is that, and everybody's learning about this in this stage of our lives, in this decade, in this this century, that mental health has been just, stopped. Don't talk about it, that sort of thing. So the bigger picture is really where people get it. They see maybe somebody has a mental health concern. Sometimes it's serious. Sometimes it's temporary. Sometimes it's, acute. There's a crisis going on. So if everybody is aware of these different things, and they can still be a community and not just shun people away because of their mental illness, which I use that word very cautiously.
Shun?
Illness. Yeah. Because people still, when you say mental illness, they're like, oh, I don't know. Joe even says, post-traumatic stress, that's not a mental illness. But that is what it is described as in the medical terms.
In the civilian world.
Talk about some of the challenges that you face, if I may ask, as a spouse, having walked alongside Joe in his journey and helping him through his navigation and reintegration, all the while raising a family, and also you have to take care of yourself too.
Right. So it's certainly not easy. I honestly think that when you can, and it's not 100% of the time, it's really hard. It is really hard, because when there's anger, and post-traumatic stress causes people to say things far worse than they ever really want to say, it's hard not to take it personal, because there's some half-truths in it too. So it's tough. And if you can learn to not take things personally, it's easier to forgive.
Talk to me about resilience, because both of you seated here today in front of me are just oozing resilience. And I'm going to direct this to you first, Carol, because we're speaking, and then I'd like for you to take it as well, Joe. But as far as maybe just take, I guess, the last 10 years, talking about the resilience, how important is it to be able to bounce back? How important is it for you to carry on? And how important is it for you to not get hung up in the past and continue the charge forward?
Well, I think that is you basically said it. It's important not to dwell on the past. That there's so much more going out there, and there's so many people in need. Even though we're getting older, we don't have to stop helping people. We don't have to stop living our dreams in our lives. We can come up with new dreams. It's a lot of people, as they get older, they become ill. So I get that. There's a lot of pain when you get older. Just you have to keep going, and you have to be positive about it. So I've I've learned through some meditations. I've learned through some things like that for self-care that I didn't even think I needed because I was so strong. But I have found that it's very beneficial to focus on things from the inside out. And that's not something that comes to you after just one time of meditating. It's over time. So, people that are thinking, oh, that's foo-foo stuff. That's what I call it, foo-foo. Yes, it's foo-foo, but it also works.
You got to practice it. Mm-hmm. What advice could you give to any other spouse or loved one that is supporting a veteran, no matter the age? And young fellas are coming back with a whole different layer of stuff to work through. Mm-hmm. So speaking broadly to a supporter of any veteran, what advice could you give?
First of all, I'd like to say that you need a support system. You need other people involved. When we talk in the mental health world as family members, I'm thinking in terms of NAMI, you can't really talk to your neighbor about these things. You can have some minor support figures, but you really need some people that have been through similar things that you've been through. Support system is very important. Self-care is important. And, whatever you decide in your life, it's about you. It's not just about your spouse.
What did you find as far as, just as humans, taking, your veteran work aside, just like as a human, where do you find like relief? What is your outlet and how do you fill your cup back up? Because you serve so many, not only in your family, but within the community. And you can't do that from a place of emptiness. So how do you recharge and how do you fill your cup?
Well, first of all, I think I'm a little bit unique. I have I don't have a high, I have a low, I don't know how to say this. I can tolerate a lot.
Okay.
I don't get stressed.
Thick skin, yeah.
I'm very mellow. Let's just say it that way. I'm very mellow, so it takes a lot to upset me in the first place, and so I don't feel the need to fill my cup. There's a bit of detachment, and I'm okay with that. You just, people can get very emotional and very hurt by certain things because they are emotional. Well, if you can detach yourself from the situation, that's helpful too.
Did you have that quality or that ability before you were married? The ability to detach, or is that? I'm curiously asking for myself.
I was still finding myself. I was 18 when we got married, so
you guys were married at 18. How sweet.
So I was still learning. So I had learned everything through my adulthood, and I didn't really know much back then. I thought I did, just like every 18-year-old.
The reason I asked Carol, and I apologize for getting so personal so quickly, is I myself struggle with taking the emotion out of a conversation, especially for business. I feel things so deeply. And I have a great friend and mentor who she shared with me, like, you put your hand over your heart's over here. She said, Amanda, when you have those conversations, you have to take that off your heart and put it over here. You have to be able to have the conversation with a clear head, rationally, not attached to your heart or emotion, because that will interfere. So it sounds like you've mastered that.
I think I have quite a bit, but it didn't start like that. I was I can remember being very emotional at the beginning. In our first, 10 or 15 years of our marriage, everything was very important and everything made a difference. And now I see that we're going to get through this. This is what we have to do. So, yeah.
One bite at a time. That's how they eat elephant, right?
Right.
Now, Joe, same question to you. I know that you do so much for so many others. You were helping a veteran with their vehicle the other day, and I'm sure there's fulfillment in that. But the same question.
Well, for me, it's, Carol mentioned that you need a support system. It took me in 2009, 2010 before, she told me that you need to go get professional help. I can't do this anymore. And I joined a Vietnam veterans group, and I was kind of hesitant. I didn't want to talk about the combat or anything. And I found out that they don't talk about combat. They talk about the psychological after effects we deal with on a daily basis, whether it be road rage, anger, depression, stuff like that. And when you share with other veterans, they've been there, done that. They know that they've been through that. It's like the younger vets coming back now. A lot of them think, Vietnam vets are just old fogies. But we were where they are now. And they're young guys, and they were just like I was. If I need help, I'll help myself. But after a while, it comes to the point you need to talk to somebody. For 40-some years, I never talked to anybody about Vietnam. She doesn't know what happened in Vietnam. My kids always ask, but I don't tell them. But it's, I think that's why all of society, there's a big divide between the civilian population and the military population, and it's because of lack of education, lack of knowledge. Both the civilian and military world are responsible for that divide. The military doesn't do anything to teach civilians about military lifestyle. A lot of civilians think, well, he's a combat veteran. I got to watch myself around him. He most likely has post-traumatic stress and he's mentally ill. And with AboutFace, what we're trying to do, one of the biggest things is bring the civilian community in with the veteran community to meet each other, to talk to each other, and learn that, yeah, we get post-traumatic stress, but we're not going to hurt you. I think it would benefit both parties to learn that it's okay.
Yeah,
we're not gonna hurt you.
How can we do that? How can we do that, Joe? Because I am committed to helping you bridge that gap, and you said something right here. So how can we help the ordinary population or civilians understand their role in the reintegration? How can we help prepare this world? Because it shouldn't just be the men and women who are over there fighting, and there should be a preparation. We should be here with resources to receive. So within your movement, how are we, and how can I and how can our listeners help?
Well, we have a program called Project Grow, and it stands for Gardening, Recreation, Outreach, and Wellness. And Project Grow involves aeroponic tower gardens where plants are grown vertically. There's no dirt. We'd like to get the community to come in with their family members, work with veterans on towers, give them an opportunity, quality time to talk to each other, learn about each other, get to know one another. Unless you talk, like Carol said earlier about mental illness, if you don't talk about it, nothing's going to be resolved. Mm-hmm. So if we can get that interaction between the civilians and military personnel, especially when all the family members are involved, that's a good start. You have to remember, when a veteran comes back from combat, it's kind of a shock. You come back here and you look around and you say, everybody's going to the movies, everybody's going to the mall, they're doing this. They're oblivious to what's going on in the war. Unless you have a son, daughter, relative, a good friend, a neighbor that's in combat, you're oblivious. You don't think about it, and that can. It's I don't want to use the word depressing, but it's just a weird feeling. How can these people go on? It's because you've been in an environment where you cannot show your emotion. Mm-hmm. You see things. People think traumatic stress is one thing, but to have an event that's really traumatic, saying you've seen your buddy wounded, and then 10 minutes later, you see one of your buddies get killed, and then you see a village go, and you're storing all. You can't allow yourself to, and it's stored behind you. Well, eventually, that's going to want to come out, and that's where the substance abuse, the alcohol abuse, that's where that comes in. And this is not a VA problem. It's not a VA issue. This is a community issue. And the community members need to get involved. And I'm talking not just the civilians, but the government itself. I think everybody should spend a day at the VA and follow a veteran and see how that veteran is treated. You have veterans that are in their 80s that can't get to the VA and can't receive benefits because they can't get to the VA. What, are you just going to leave that person to
transportation die? Needs to be provided.
Right. And that's another thing we do. We can't provide an ambulance, but the person has to be able to get in and out of the vehicle. And a lot of these veterans can't get in and out of the vehicle.
But our transportation, we do offer free transportation to veterans to and from healthcare appointments. Whether if it's at the VA, that's great. I mean, that's a long way away. Mm-hmm. So, but we cover that cost. We have them sign in with us, register with us one time, mm-hmm. and then they get an ID and a phone number to call to the dispatcher to set up their time to get picked up and also to get back home. So they call that number, they Lyft or Uber takes them, and that works. And then if it's not a VA, let's say they, there's such a thing called community care that the VA covers, as long as it's within 20 miles of their home, we'll cover that cost too.
I think a lot of it is the one-on-one relationships you develop with the veteran. Veterans lack trust. You talk to any veteran, they're going to tell you, I'm not very trusting. I know I'm not. Mm-hmm. Very few people that, Carol's probably the only one that really knows me because she lives with me, but I really enjoy seeing the veteran or the family member progress. You know, I've been in groups where the veteran wants to kill the spouse. And 6 months later, the transition is amazing. I mean, they develop a relationship. And I think that because of talking with other veterans and getting to know that you're not the only one. Mm-hmm. When a veteran first opens up about his trials and tribulations, they say, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. And then we'll ask, well, how many people can relate to Jim? And all the hands go up, and they're like, oh, I thought I was the only one. And it's unfortunate that that veteran has to go through that by themselves. But the veteran has to learn to ask for help. And that's one of the biggest things. We're providing a resource. You can come into our facility, and our intake person will explain all the programs to you. We don't tell you, you should take this, take that. You tell us, what are you interested in? Now, if our intake person thinks you might need something else, she might mention that. You might think about taking this program. I think it's just getting the word out to the veterans and the civilian population to come in here and use our program. I mean, we provide food, clothing.
So I do want to mention a couple of other things.
Thanks for interrupting me.
She gave you the finger, though.
Oh, wait,
that was nice.
That was not that finger.
No, yeah, the index finger.
So we do, so in addition to the financial literacy coaching and the Project Grow with the aeroponic farms, it's important for people to know that our center is located right at exit 14 and 400, so right by the Publix there. We have a lounge area, what we call a social area. We have a business area where people can come in and just sit down and hold, if they want to have a meeting or just have friends meet, just contact us, and we offer that. The farm is indoor right there, bright and beautiful. It's really fun. It gives a good energy in the entire area. We are going to be starting a computer training, basic computer skills for veterans.
Cool.
And
there's such a need for that.
Yeah, so we have 3 computers that are up, and we just have to get it marketed and and let people know it's going to start in February. And then
if I wanted to just come and have coffee and possibly a conversation with a veteran, is that something that I could do?
Well,
Definitely.
it's not like we have veterans sitting
Just
there.
hanging out. It's not like
Joe,
a coffee
Joe's
shop.
there, so you can come and talk with him. So that's one thing. But that was the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've had different organizations from Forsyth County come in and hold their meetings there. Mm-hmm. Some do it weekly. Some do it just one time, just to see what we're all about. We're also talking about, we've got a big screen TV, and they have these things called master classes. You may have seen them on Facebook or someplace, and we're trying to schedule some that we can just market to tell people to come in and watch this class. Otherwise, you don't have to pay for it. We've got it here on our TV. So
I think that that's a fantastic idea to help get people in the space so that people know that you're there, and to kind of get a little bit of traffic in there, raise some awareness.
Mm-hmm.
We want to have a movie night.
And the last thing I can think of is that we offer presentations. If somebody wants to learn about what we do, and they're just curious, we can go to their, like if they have a monthly meeting, we can come to one of their meetings, spend
Rotary,
15, 20
like
minutes talking about some of just for mental health awareness. We focus on mental health awareness, but we're kind of a prevention area. We're trying to help with suicide prevention. We're trying to help with preventing, or at least alleviating, homelessness. So those are the focuses that we're,
I'm looking here at your site. For those listening, again, I'm speaking with Carol and Joe, and they are the founders of AboutFace-USA. And they believe that every veteran deserves access to mental and behavioral health services, community connections, and opportunities for personal growth. Their leaders and partners are united in their mission to make a tangible difference in the lives of veterans, offering unwavering support and advocacy. Again, they are located here in Forsyth County, and you can find out more about them online at www.aboutface-usa.org. Excited to stay connected with you both so that we can continue to share the message of your organization and also follow along with the Computer Center. Joe, I would be remiss if we didn't touch on the many lives that you've led within this period of time we've discussed. But talk about your little bout in Ohio when you played football.
Well, I back then, we had real helmets. We didn't have the
You
leather
have real
helmets.
helmets.
But at the freshman, you weren't allowed to play on the varsity team. You had to play on the freshman team. So I played guard and middle linebacker, mainly on offense, guard. I enjoyed it. A couple of my buddies from high school went to Dayton right out of high school. So I had some friends there already. But I enjoyed it. I wish, looking back, I wish I'd have studied more. I wish I wouldn't have taken things so personally. But that's part of life. You're young, 20, 21, and
Can't tell you anything. Can't tell a 21-year-old anything.
yeah, especially after I come from combat. But I enjoyed a lot of people that I met there. It is what it is. I mean, I think the Lord makes things happen for a purpose.
Absolutely.
And I think He just said, why waste your time here? Go find something else. And
Well, tell me when you found this gem here, because that was around that time, college, right? You
Well,
said 18. So
well,
how did you score Carol?
I always tell everybody that when I was going through my dark days, the Lord looked down and said, "That poor bastard needs an angel."
And he sent you,
So
Carol.
he sent me Carol, and she is my angel.
So she fell out of the sky and hit you on the head.
Yeah,
Where did you guys meet? Did you meet in school?
we met at a car wash.
Okay.
Yeah,
Were you the serviceman washing her
I was.
tires?
My brother owned car washes, and I managed them. And she worked there during the summer, so that's how we met at a car wash. So that's our theme song.
I took my sister's place back in the 1970s. She said, I'm going to Florida. We lived in Michigan back then. And she says, I'm going to Florida. Do you want to take over for me at my job? And I said, okay. And that was how we...
That was it?
That was the job. So there was a different manager at my location, and he came in and, took over for him one day. He must have taken the weekend off or something. So.
And you caught his eye. Wow, fell from the sky and met you at a car wash.
Well, the thing is that Carol's very resilient. I mean, when we had 2 kids right away. They were 11 months apart, and she went off to university. We went off to University of Michigan, and Carol was taking full course, but had to also manage. There must have been 2 or 3, 1 or 2.
What? 2 or
Kids.
3 what?
The kids?
I
How
think,
old were they?
They were 1 and 2.
1 and 2?
1 and 2. She had to go to class. She'd come back, and we didn't have washer or dryer, so she had to get on pick up all the clothes, take the bus to the laundromat, wash them. She'd come back home with the kids, and then she'd have to go back, put them in the dryer. So she...
You better wear those pair of pants twice, Joe.
But that's resiliency. I mean, I was so impressed that she was able... I couldn't do that.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Looking back at those days, that time, and this is a very selfish question, Carol. I admire you greatly in this short time that we've gotten to know each other. I will be 40 here very soon, and I am very curious. If you could go back and tell your 40-year-old self anything in the world, what would it be?
Wow. I think I would tell myself to be, it sounds funny, but to be stronger and to trust my own instincts. I was still very much having people tell me what to do, work-wise. I think I might have been a real estate agent back then and didn't know much about it, and probably just getting started. I think we moved here when I was 40. I'm sure we just had moved here. We had lived in 4 different states. So, I was very comfortable with myself. I don't know that there's a much difference now. I know that I know so much more about mental health than I did back then. And it's not the flare-ups, they weren't necessarily daily. They weren't necessarily extreme. People might think it was like every single day. And it wasn't, I wish I had known that stuff. I wish I had known, because like Joe says, you add fuel to the fire if you aren't helping with the mental health issues. And that's for both parties to recognize, okay, I might point it out to them, but, that might actually be pouring fuel on the fire as well. So walking on eggshells, I do say that that's hypervigilance, which is part of post-traumatic stress. You're so focused on your spouse and what they're doing that you don't really have time for yourself. Anyway, I would just tell myself to be stronger. Trust yourself.
Trust yourself. Discernment is something that I'm very much working on. I've enjoyed our conversation tremendously. Anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, I just would like the younger veterans and their family members to reach out. Even more so the family members. because a lot of what the veteran go through had a real impact on the family members. And if the family members were educated on how to deal with a veteran with post-traumatic stress, I think you'd have a lot less divorces. I read where it's estimated that 67% of the first marriages for a veteran fail. They say there's 22 veterans that commit suicide every day. That stuff can be. We can reduce those numbers, but you have to seek help. You know, one of the biggest things is accepting the fact that you have a problem, and I'm afraid that just like we were when World War II vets, Korean, Vietnam, you're young, you're bold, and you don't need help. Then you get to be like me, and you realize, I wish that I got this help a long time ago. And too many wait too late. And a lot of destruction, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and a lot of that could be avoided if you'd have just reached out. And I just want the veterans, young veterans, to have an open mind. A lot of these groups, they like to meet at bars. Well, one of your biggest problems with a veteran is substance abuse and alcohol abuse. You drink because you want to get rid, you want to get away from what's in your mind, and you think drinking's the answer. Well, the next morning you wake up, you got a pounding headache, and your problem is still there. And if you act the fool the night before that, you probably got yourself into more trouble. So I wish, I'm not, we preach sobriety, but, to each his own. But I just wish younger veterans to have an open mind to reach out. If you like it, fine. If you don't like it, that's okay. Maybe you're not ready for it yet.
No harm in reaching out.
Right. And the family members, it's hard to live with somebody knowing you don't know what they're going through and you don't know how to treat it.
But I do want to share, so those listening, okay, at AboutFace-USA, they are committed to supporting veterans and their families. So if you have questions about their programs or you need assistance or you'd like to get involved, they are here to help. So reach out to them through any of these channels and they'd be happy to connect with you. Again, we are sitting here speaking with Joe and Carol, and that direct number is 888-766-0222. You can also email info@aboutface-usa.org. And their physical address is here in Cumming, Georgia at 188 Tri-County Plaza. And again, pop in, say hello, and do explore the resources that they have available. Knowledge is power.
Free coffee.
Free coffee.
I'll be there. Free Wi-Fi.
And free Wi-Fi.
But if you don't know where to begin, that's us. Come talk to us. We're here to help. That's our job. We have resources. We're not a membership group. So like the VFW, the Vietnam Veterans of America, the American Legion, they have members, but they're not really, and they help each other as best they can. But that's the whole health wellness is not their main focus. That's our focus, is to get you the help you need.
Whole health wellness. And it's most important to know that you're not alone.
Right.
You are not alone. You have two new friends named Carol and Joe from AboutFace-USA.org. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your dedication to this mission. And I know I will see you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda. You're wonderful.
Visit AmandaPierch.com to learn more about purpose-driven podcasting. Special thanks to our partners at Commercial Capital Limited for supporting the Nonprofit Nation podcast series. Commercial Capital Limited is your one-stop shop for commercial financing needs. Visit commercialcapitalltd.com to learn more about the types of programs and loans that they fund, types of properties they finance, and the documents needed to underwrite and process a loan in under 48 hours. Contact the experts at 770-908-1672 or email the team info@commercialcapitalltd.com.